can you just give a little background on where you grew up, what made you join the Army, etc.?
All right, so I'm originally from Flint, Michigan. Went to school there for about half of my secondary education. Moved out to Montrose, Michigan, which is where I graduated. Shortly after that, my father became sick. Spent a couple years taking care of him till he passed away. Tried to work and keep my brother and put my brother through college and keep things afloat, as just life has a way of doing it. It caught up with me. Few bad decisions as a young man put me in a financial situation where I ended up losing my home, became homeless, was sleeping on my buddy's couch, and didn't have a whole lot of options or positive outlook at that point. So looked at the military. It had been something that I'd visited in the past, right after high school, as well as a couple other times. But like I say, with my father getting sick, that kind of took up most of my time. Finally didn't have really any excuses to not join or not be a part of something bigger than myself. So I joined the military, and the rest is kind of history.
Just every time I speak, learn more about you, the more inspired I get. So you've done some amazing things, but what do you think the Army taught you? Is there benefits that you could transfer into an everyday life?
No, absolutely. The Army teaches you a core set of values, honor, integrity, things of that nature, and those absolutely translate into everyday life. Those absolutely translate into, how I want to just live my life now. It can teach you resiliency and grit as well. Teaches you how to have to adapt to situations. Not everything goes as planned. Not even whenever you're not deployed, when you're just in the rear, and you're just doing your daily routine, I guess is the best way to put it in the military. If you're not deployed, if you're not at war, you have a daily routine similar to somebody that might go to an office. You wake up and you do PT, physical training in the morning. Then you have, a roll call at a certain time, and then you have your work day where you have certain tasks that have to be done. And it absolutely, you learn that it's, if you're, 5 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late, so you learn to have to be on time, which is actually 10 to 15 minutes early to things. You learn how to be, prepared for the situation. They always say if you're in the right place with the right uniform at the right time, you're doing the right thing. And that sort of stuff just translates into regular life. If you're dressed appropriately for the situation and you're in the right place and you're there 10 to 15 minutes early, chances are you're already off to a good start and whatever it is that you're about to do. And there's just a lot that the military, can teach you, basic, what might be considered basic life skills that, you might not necessarily get from your parents, or you don't necessarily get from, school or at any other point. Maybe you were taught some of these things in a loose fashion, but, as, growing up as a child, people very rarely will reinforce this sort of stuff in the way or at the level that the military will reinforce how important these things are. So there's absolutely quite a bit that can be taken from the military, just the military experience, being a part of it, no matter what you did.
Do you think that's something that a lot of modern day men struggle with, is that, how to be a good man, how to have routine and discipline in their lives?
Oh, absolutely. You see it all over the place. Especially nowadays, you see people just lose their shit about, because they're prime example, Canada. The presidency here in America, people lose their shit because their candidate didn't win, and it's you need to reserve a little self-control, maybe look at the bigger picture, look at how your actions are going to possibly have an effect, or what the action reaction is going to be. Absolutely, people just, especially now with social media, everybody's gotten everything so on demand. It's always a knee-jerk reaction to everything. People somehow have lost the ability to take a second to think, step back, compose themselves, and think, how is this how are my actions going to represent myself or represent, me on a larger stage? Is this how I want to be represented? When I was younger, my father, taught me, hey, you're a Kolchar, that's your last name. When you write it out clear so people can see. Carry it with pride. That's who you are. That's where you're from. And the military just reinforced that. My very first day in my unit in the military, I showed up in a uniform that had just been bombed out during basic training from all the corrective training. Where they make you do all sorts of ridiculousness, physical activities to try to get you to work as a unit and as a team. And the uniform, so the uniforms that you get in basic training are just usually beat up. And I showed up to my unit wearing one of those uniforms because, they hadn't issued me another one, so I didn't know any better. And I had this sergeant take me off to the side, and he fixed my pockets and straightened my uniform up and squared me away and said, you need to get a different uniform. This is unacceptable. You're representing something larger than yourself. And he's like, you look like a shitbag right now. And he's like, you need to remember that it says U.S. Army on one side. And he's like, you're representing something much larger than you. And you need to carry yourself in a certain fashion because everything that you do resonates beyond just who you are as a person. And I think people forget that, or maybe people nowadays don't have something that they believe in or enough to want to carry themselves with a certain pride or respect. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's just people just have these knee-jerk reactions nowadays when they need to take a step back, think about how they're representing themselves and whatever else it is that they may be representing, and move accordingly from there.